This is CUNY TV, the television station of the greatest urban university in the world.
As the sun sets at the end of a New York workday, the mind transitions from daily tasks to the cloudier, more philosophical regions of social issues, culture, and politics. In a democracy, every perspective on the world is important, and people in art and culture have surprising bodies of knowledge that can shed fresh light on today's reality. The following conversation with Mary Carlson took place in Walton, New York on September 24th, 2020.
Mary Carlson is an artist whose work draws on art history and Catholic iconography in particular. Her miniature figurines and landscapes, often based on medieval and Renaissance paintings, bring to life the tales of saints and demons for a 21st century audience. I never really refer to the premise of the show as Twilight Talks, but it has to do with not just the time of the day, but also to the sense that maybe civilization is ending or something like that. Are you a defender of those memories?
I don't, I've never really thought of it that way. I'm reading The Plague, 1348, 47, and then the crazy kings that were in business then. I mean, really nuts.
Yeah.
And the whole chivalry thing is kind of on the wane. It's not really connected to anything real anymore. I mean, it used to be, but it was getting more just showy and, let's get all dressed up in armor and go to
pageantry.
War. It seems like there was something similar going on now, with crazy kings.
You make these beautiful figurines, but do you have a sense, are you thinking about the way people's bodies existed at that time? Because I think you get gestures down so well, and there's something about them that feels like of another time period.
It's usually the stories that hook me. I was just thinking, when did I first start doing Margaret's and Catherine's, especially Margaret?
Those two in particular, right?
Yeah, it's her story, and
you have to tell the story.
Okay, it's such a great
You tell it all the time, I'm sure. Yeah,
it's such a great story. She supposedly lived in the 4th century in Antioch, and a Roman governor wanted to marry her. She didn't want to marry him, so he threw her in with a demon who swallowed her, and she gets out by tickling its inside and emerges intact. And the image is the demon has part of her dress in its mouth, so you see that she went through him. And I love that she's not a victim. And she was super popular in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. And Titian did paintings of her.
I kind of assume you grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
What did saints represent for people? A specific kind of encouragement, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Catholics at the time, or when I was going to school, they don't know the Bible.
Right.
The Bible is Protestant, or they just, but the stories of the saints, that's what, and we all had to play our saints, on November 1st.
Right.
I guess there was a thought that this was an intermediary kind of channel, and, somebody who wasn't as scary.
Yeah. Well, these are the days of Celebrity Idol. Something like that kind of celebrity idol for that time.
Yeah.
You could relate to them in terms of maybe your problems that you were having.
Like eye problems, Lucy, or, but you don't want to do the Zuber on Lucy because her eyes are on a plate,
Right, yeah. But the Catholics are really good, though, at representing agony in a very beautiful way. It's something that I think about if I have a sad period in my life or something, that it's helpful to be able to aestheticize your misery.
Yeah, there's some kind of redemption, or you'll get through it, or it'll be a blessing in disguise, just not to stay in it.
Maybe it's the saints, too, like the stories you're relating, Margaret and Catherine. These are stories of of women whose dignity is not stripped by their circumstances. They emerge from it in some way. The Catherine story is really great too, right?
Yeah. I think there was a marriage involved with that one too, that she didn't want to do, and she was known for being really smart and debating with philosophers, and I don't know, but she's depicted with a sword often.
Truth be told, probably women had more authority or more power, at least some women did back in those days. I think we just think of women as not having any rights at all and just being victims of
Right.
male culture until, the vote in the 19 teens or something. There's definitely an upsurge in interest in Artemisia Gentileschi and Judith and Holofernes, these kinds of images from history that show women committing acts of violence against men, basically. I mean, I think it's cathartic, right?
Yeah, not the sentimental view of, there's Teresa of Avila, who was really powerful, and people are still reading her.
What's interesting about demons is they don't just seem as depicted in paintings by Limburg brothers or any of the famous painters who liked to depict demons. I mean, do you follow Bosch much in your... Is he too cliche?
He's a little sentimental, I think.
Yeah.
I don't relate to his demons.
His demons are very cute, but...
and I don't know if that's what's happened, subsequently, where they got really cute looking with all the reproductions.
Mm-hmm.
I love Giotto's demons. I really can relate to those demons because some of them are on your back or whispering in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
The depiction of hell at the Scribani Chapel, and it's in a church.
Right, yeah. Yeah, mixing politics with religion, right,
Yeah,
essentially.
that somebody approved that somewhere, some cardinal,
Right, yeah, no.
I love that.
I mean, are you making figurines of medieval and Renaissance characters through the Trump administration? Is that in some ways one way you're coping? You were doing this before this particular episode in American politics came about, but...
Yeah, I was. I think it's just a personal identification at the time. Like, right now, I don't feel particularly demonic or attracted to demons. I think what attracted me to, especially the medieval, was it's before psychology was figured out, but it feels so psychological, and just the underside of things, and that it's out there, that it's depicted and it's part of life.
Yeah. I mean, it comes at a time when people aren't necessarily accepting just the rules of science. It feels to me like people are looking for more mystical stories, or stories that have more kind of mystery involved in terms of people's motivations.
I guess a lot of that's pre-Enlightenment.
Right.
It all can't be explained. 1305, 1303, 700 years ago. 700, and it's like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And I can connect to it, you know? And there's Joachim in the desert. I don't know, I think it's some kind of identification with the body.
In those days, in the medieval period, before, modern medicine, there was just so much mystery to what was going on. Different emotions like anger and love and jealousy and those kinds of things. And I think in some ways now, as we make it scientific, maybe it doesn't actually kind of get the job done in terms of a vocabulary for explaining how those things really feel.
Right. Or envy by Giotto is amazing. She's got a snake coming out of her mouth, going into her forehead.
Right.
And then there's a little snake down here, and she has a bag of money. I mean, she's carrying it, but she wants more. It's like, oh my God, that's what it feels like.
In some ways depicts a lot of the kind of cartoon villains we have now as politicians. If you look at them, they would make great allegories. They're almost performing that way in a like a pre-modern way.
I mean, with the hair, it's a perfect cartoon.
Right,
I mean, they're beyond cartoons.
Can you talk about translating from a painting to a three-dimensional object in a sculpture? That's the way you've always worked?
I'm not an abstract artist. I tried for a few years, but I could never figure out when to quit. Looking at paintings, I get to make up a whole other side of it and try to get the gesture and feel it. And with the landscapes I've been doing recently, it's trying to get some perspective in there, or do a little atmospheric perspective so it feels like it's a small object, but that it feels bigger.
The current show at Carrie Schuss's gallery is called Eden, right? So, but you're taking the backgrounds in a lot of those Renaissance or medieval paintings, which are very beautifully and skillfully painted. They're not usually the center of attention in the painting, but they're back there.
Right after 9/11, I started doing, I went into landscapes. I didn't show any of that work, but they were made out of plaster and mountains, and some of them actually held water. It's similarly now, it's like, what's going on? But these mountains are going to be here once we're all gone. And then just being really lucky to be in this landscape, and then seeing just some days something so beautiful. You know, just like, oh my God, that's so beautiful.
There's also the weather too. Cyclical, yes, but also unpredictable. Landscape can mean many things, but are these little landscape models you're making, let's say, is that a kind of escapist reality?
Well, I guess I can identify easier the human drama. Actually, I'm working on one right now. The Cranach Eves, where she's like,
right,
no shame.
Yes, right, yeah.
Those are so great.
Before she was...
yeah. Last couple of years, I just love that image. But then once the pandemic, I just couldn't do those figures right now. It's just like, if I were to do figures now, it would feel sentimental. It would be based on some emotion that's from another time and not necessarily right now.
Right. What is like a pandemic pre-2020 scary election figure doing or behaving like now?
You know, I can't tell right now.
Are you in a blank state? I think I'm in a blank state.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're in a moment that it's so politicized that everything just gets translated one-to-one as like some comment on politics or you almost cannot escape it. Everything's so polarized, and it seems to me anything figurative right now is just going to be interpreted as some allegory of political life or cultural life right now.
Yeah, I don't know what I'll do next. I think I always find it hard to work during a show.
Yeah.
I think it's important to digest what people are saying, you know, and how they're receiving it, and not just say, oh, they like that, I'll do more of those, you know.
Yeah.
But really, you know, kind of process all that information.
I mean, I guess I think of you as trained to be a ceramicist or a sculptor working in clay from the beginning, but I know you did other things. You did this Faded Flag piece that was a kind of 9/11 piece, right?
It was right after 2010, Citizens United, where corporations or people...
Oh, yes, could become donors to political campaigns. Yeah.
And it just seemed like, that's the end.
Big money.
Of our democracy.
Right, yeah.
And that's when I did the Faded Flags, yeah.
I mean, it's funny, now you drive around up here and you see Trump flags that were actually from 2016 that look pretty ratty. At this point, they're holding on to some hope, but that flag sure doesn't look that great at this point.
Yeah.
Your flag, though, is about the end of democracy, but also, too, going back to the bodies of the saints and all that, it feels to me like it's a kind of personal metaphor for aging or something like that.
Yeah, the hair turning gray.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it, too.
And the end of the empire, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a reality.
Yeah. Part of my reaction most recently to what's going on, the fever pitch of all the different crises and the worry about it has been to escape into a kind of hermitage. But I think a lot of people are discovering the joys of just being at home. And it is an escape from the worries of the world in a certain way, you know. You're still doing what you do.
I almost think, you know, all this stuff out there, but then, okay, we're here right now, this is it. And just trying to really be here in you know, it's the only way through all that. But then there's just the positive thing of, okay, how can I pay attention, you know, to right now? And then, okay, oh, that was so beautiful, let me see if I can repeat that. You know, it's gone.
Mary Carlson's exhibition, titled Eden, just closed at the Carrie Schuch Gallery in New York City. The following conversation with Chelsea Culprit took place in Roxbury, New York on October 22nd, 2020.
Chelsea Culprit is an artist whose work examines the trappings of feminine identity through paintings and sculpture. Her representations of exotic dancers, costumes, and money call attention to the performance aspects of femininity and, ultimately, its power as a form of cultural currency. A painting such as you do of you know, women and you know, semi-abstracted, that I haven't thought of it really before as like a resistance to just this really easy distribution of photographs. It's against, you know, photographic realism and against the easy distribution of, and even adding to the elements of objecthood, like when you put a concrete frame around a painting or something like that.
It's funny because I don't necessarily want to take a position of like against all of those things, because I'm not. I'm very inspired by it. Yeah, I mean, like, I also love looking at images, and I love looking at people who use their own body as a work of art. I am so inspired by that. Like, I'm inspired by dancers and entertainers and people who are like unhinged from the object. I think it's probably the most radical. And I think it's amazing that like media and image making has allowed for that, those arts to further develop. At the same time, like, I'm interested in like translating how those things feel and look into another image for other people to experience. Like, how does my body look now? Not like from there, but like the shape of your body from your view, not from the view of, especially in the case of the female body, within the frame of the painting.
So I often ask people about their names in the beginning, and I suspect your name is made up. You know, can you tell me what Culprit is or where it comes from?
My given name is Culp. And it is a family name where the spelling has changed over many, many generations, mainly through oral tradition and illiteracy and Appalachian culture. And I think it was only 2 or 3 generations where the spelling had stayed the same. You know, really from a different moment in my own life where I wanted attention and was like fine to do any means to go about it. And my like deepest fear was to have familiarity with any other name. So yeah, I mean, I sought out to change it, and it also just felt right to change it, like from Culp to Culprit.
I imagine that you were using it maybe too as like a stage name around the time you were dancing. And
absolutely.
Do you want to talk about doing that?
I didn't. It wasn't at that time. It was like much later that I changed that. I mean, really, when I was dancing, it was not in a mode of making visual art and making paintings. I was working as a performance artist, and I was interested in performance, and it was the body, and I really experienced images as kind of this sacrilegious, like I saw them and I felt them aggressively as currency, you know. And I think part of my compulsion to paint and make my own images is like a cathartic process of trying to get to like, what would an experience be of my body without the scripts of gender, femininity, sexuality, social roles, like all of the order that is put on any body. And in the case of a female body, you're up against not just the photographic image and media of the last like 100 or 200 years, but you're in painting.
The objectified
it's like sometimes I feel like I'm like painting it out. There's different moments in my work where there's these stylistic shifts, and I'll find myself drawn to certain moments where I'm like, why was that the position of the female and how is it expressed? We're still not even out of it. We're like, all of the images they're made by men of women. And so how do you inhabit this body and not be told who you are? And I don't even have a full sense, like I doubt myself, or I'm like, who, is it possible to just like get that out?
I mean, you can't escape these traditions, and we're all inculcated in certain ways. I mean, I see in some different bodies of work you've done, I see you processing certain art historical traditions.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, Matisse maybe, or like the recent work I think that's at Moran, it looks a little bit like Picasso Guernica to me.
Always. That always comes out. I did this mural at Palais de Tokyo, and it was really fun to hear the associations there, because I'm not like trying to do it. I feel like the best work is when you let the work happen, and then you look at it and let it tell you what it's doing and what you're doing. You know, you don't really even know what it is until it's done, and you're like, I guess I think that's funny. I don't know. Why can't I make this in a serious way? And like, actually, I started making paintings. It was like, I mean, I've been making paintings my whole life since I was really little. But then when I went to school, I stopped and I got really into performance and sound and all these other things. I started doing painting gestures, and it was sort of like this exploration of gestural abstraction, and then like the machismo, this like acrobatic bodily machismo of abstract expressionism.
If you think of like Pollock's, you know, crawling all over his canvases.
The genius of it. And like I was doing these mockeries, right? But not really wanting to like make fun of things. You know, you don't want your practice to actually be like poking fun at other things, because I think to be expressive or create in any way is like a miracle. There's so many odds against it. So I really respect all artists. But
do you think women artists in particular, though, have to kind of move through that in some way?
I don't think you have to. I mean, it's whatever you want to do, you know? I mean, for me, it has been. And I was making these performances that ended up all this painterly gesture and stuff was coming into it, even to the point where I'm almost making paintings. And I was like, why don't just make the paintings? But it's always about like letting the work do it and then looking at what it is. And you're like, wow, this performance is like really not that good.
Right.
Like when your performances turn into excuses for making paintings, then maybe you just need to go into the studio and make some paintings.
Yeah. I think it's maybe like anything creative.
Absolutely.
Maybe like performances is a way to kind of, generate the ideas that you can then sort of attack, on the canvas itself.
Yeah, circling is really important. Like I need walking space, like actual circling. I need to be able to walk and move around and sit and stare.
Creativity is painful in some ways, I think.
Right before quarantine, for the first time in over 10 years, I got an apartment away from the studio. I always lived in the studio. And like part of it was financial, but also part of it was just, I don't like having to make that choice at the beginning of the day. And I like being, like, am I going to do laundry or am I going to like do this thing? Like, no stress, and like if the painting is not, you're not connecting, then you can walk away, like go pull weeds or whatever.
No, it's the best thing. I think lateral thinking, But let me ask you about there are a lot of women making art now that is about women as subject matter, and that seems like a solution of sorts to these centuries of the male gaze and men kind of controlling those images or what have you. But someone was sort of being critical of that and saying like, or is that just putting more of it out there in the world?
I mean, I don't think it's any woman's responsibility to like not express the challenges of their position, to soften the blow. I think it's all good and like it's all necessary. I mean, it's almost how I feel about like resistance right now, it's like it's all necessary. We need people in the streets. We need people with direct action. We need people with legislation. We need people writing poetry. We need people doing all of these things. And like every person doesn't have to do all those things.
Right.
And a lot of the female artists that I see working right now, it's like, it's not how I would make a painting. But I think it's important that those paintings are made. With all like work that's coming out of identity, it's important that those are about articulations of individuality, where like financially comfortable straight white male has had the authority to individuate themselves infinitely. Then like let's leave a little room for everybody else to do that too. And I don't feel any position to even talk about painting for other women. Like my own painting is about like, am I a woman? How much of that is biological? How much of that is cultural? I don't know. Sometimes I can very confidently be like, I am a woman, and then I'm like, wait, is that a movie that I watched? Am I?
Right.
And I'll have phases where I'm like, no, I'm not that. I'm not anything. I'm just, I'm some spirit thing in this material form that has these scripts from power, from history. If I'm making things about women or about a woman experience, it's like, in quotes of like whatever that constructed frame of it is. It's not an essential.
It's a space too, I think, what's going on in terms of resistance just in art making in general. It's a space for people to explore identities that aren't out there categorized, boxed up, priced already.
Totally, yeah.
I think that, what the world needs right now in this sort of, there's a purist impulse afoot with this fascist ideologies want things to be pure. It goes back to Nazi Germany, it goes back to the Greeks, this fantasy of human life being this very sort of like rational and racially pure thing, and it isn't, it never was, it isn't now, and we can say how much we love diversity and all that stuff, but right now that's taking a beating, that idea. I think everybody's being rounded up,
and it's beautiful to watch all the refusals. A lot has happened in 5 years around what you can see in painting right now, like figurative, and that's been really exciting. But it was sort of when there first started to be real clear articulations around the zeitgeist of like the female figurative move.
Right.
And this gallerist was like, well, how will you be the one? What will distinguish you from these other ones? And it's like, wow, that's your I don't even care.
Is this a beauty pageant or something?
Working with you, like
right?
this is, we're
the
not going to
point because the point
we're
is
not going to get anywhere.
the point is the diversity, right? I mean, the point is the different individualities that get represented. But I was like, why are we talking about all this stuff when there's this huge political thing at stake? But I think that it is a wave of resistance that, as you were describing, takes many forms. And I think in some ways that is maybe the most antithetical to like Judge Amy Coney Barrett, like a black tranny.
I think it's also the real mirror to our own humanity and our own values of like the most historically disenfranchised.
Mm-hmm.
The strength of our society is like the health of the weakest. And if we really think it's okay to protect some people and not others, if we really think it's okay, and so I think that those identities become very important, like not just because the humanity of each individual person is important, but because it shows us who we really are, and the answers to that right now are like heartbreaking and terrifying, and how do we even get out of the situation that we're in is like
we've crossed so many lines at this point. It's hard to keep track, but it's just horrifying, what this society is doing right now, and it almost seems like the lid is open. I don't know if all that's going to go back in, if this ever turns around.
Yeah, what the grotesqueness that people are capable of. It's like,
you've lived in Mexico City for quite a while, and you just came back. And so what are your impressions right now coming back?
It's a very disorienting place, but I don't know if that's quite if it's America is that different than the world, than many other places. But if what's real, what's not real, how we get information, how we connect with one another.
Chelsea Culprit's exhibition titled Nothing to Wear just closed at Moran Moran Gallery in Los Angeles.